Joining us on This Is Now, Honolulu police are holding a press conference right now about an arrest made in the murder of a woman whose body was found in a storm drain in Manoa. Let's listen in.
The east side of the housing complex. The storm drain runs from the north to south, crosses under Dole Street, and feeds into the Manoa stream at the University of Hawaii Hawaiian Studies building. The responding HPD officers observed the decomposed body of a female who had suspicious injuries. Near her, officers found 9mm shell casings along with several other items, including a plastic water bottle and female clothing. Detectives of the Homicide and Strategic Enforcement Detail were assigned to investigate this case. Upon arrival, shoe prints were found in the mud of the drain. The prints faced both directions, indicating that the person wearing the shoes entered and exited within the same drain. On Saturday, September 14th, an autopsy was conducted by the Honolulu Medical Examiner's Office. It was determined that the victim had been shot multiple times in her head, torso, and limbs. The cause of death was determined to be multiple gunshot wounds, and the manner of death was homicide. The female victim was positively identified as 50-year-old Christina Baca. Director and Professor of Forensic Sciences from Chaminade University, Dr. David Carter, was requested to examine the victim and the scene to assist in determining the approximate time of death. Dr. Carter reported that Christina's death occurred between Saturday, September 7th, 2024, and Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. A witness had reported that on September 8, 2024, at about 2:00 a.m., she heard approximately 6 gunshots. During the course of this 4-week investigation, numerous witnesses were located and interviewed. Digital trace and DNA evidence were reviewed and examined, and hours of surveillance video were recovered and reviewed. Through the investigation, it was revealed that Christina had an intimate relationship with a male identified as Jabron Copeland. Reportedly, Christina and Copeland had been involved in a previous domestic abuse incidences. Copeland was described as being obsessed with Christina. Surveillance was reviewed, and on Saturday, September 8, 2024, at approximately 11:18 p.m., Copeland and Christina were observed on surveillance video walking to the University of Hawaii Hawaiian Studies building. Christina was observed grabbing an empty plastic water bottle from the trash receptacle and filling it with water from the water fountain. The bottle was the same bottle recovered near her body. Approximately 3 minutes later, Copeland and Christina exited the UH Hawaiian Studies building and walked toward the low east side of the property that leads to the entrance to the 2 lower level drains. On Monday, September 9th, 2024, at about 2:35 a.m., Copeland is observed leaving the Hawaiian Studies building alone to Dole Street and proceeded eastbound towards Waialae Avenue. The surveillance showed Copeland wearing a light-colored baseball cap, green and black patterned shirt, dark shorts, white athletic shoes, and had a skateboard. He was carrying a red and black shoulder bag. It was discovered that Copeland had a storage unit at Public Storage. It was confirmed that on Saturday, September 8th, at about 5:25 p.m., Copeland was attired in the same clothing and carrying the same bag that matched what he was wearing in the UH Hawaiian Studies surveillance video. A search warrant was executed on that storage locker, and various items, including the red and black colored husky bag, was recovered as evidence. The bag appeared to match that of Copeland in the UH Hawaiian Studies surveillance video. It was also determined that Copeland was a user of a second storage unit at Hawaii Self-Storage. A search warrant was executed on Copeland's Hawaii Self-Storage unit, and various items of evidence were recovered, including the green and black colored dress shirt, the cyan-colored skateboard, that were both consistent with what he was wearing and riding at the UH Hawaiian Studies building. Gunshot residue tests were conducted on items of evidence and tested positive for the husky bag and the skateboard. DNA tests were conducted on several items of evidence. The DNA obtained from Christina's fingernails, the water bottle found by her body, and the cyan-colored skateboard that was recovered from his storage unit all matched Copeland's DNA. During the course of the investigation, it was also discovered that Copeland was observed on surveillance footage recovered from the bus, OTS. The bus surveillance footage showed that Sunday, September 8th, at approximately 10:16 p.m., Copeland boarded the Route Number 1 bus on Waialae Avenue and Hunakai Street near the public storage in Kahala. Copeland can be seen attired in clothing consistent with the UH Hawaiian Studies surveillance, including the husky red and black bag, cyan-colored skateboard, and the white athletic shoes. At about 10:30 p.m., Copeland exited the bus on Waialae Avenue in Kaimuki near the public storage. At about 10:51 p.m., surveillance footage shows a male who appears to be Copeland walking to a pedestrian bridge that crosses the Palolo stream with a female who appears to be Christina. They exit into the residential neighborhood that is in the direction heading towards UH Manoa. They are then captured on the UH Hawaiian Studies building surveillance at 11:18 p.m. An expert in the identification of athletic shoes was able to identify the brand and model of the shoe Copeland is seen wearing on surveillance video, both before and after the murder. He identified those shoes as a Nike Court Vision. He also identified the shoe imprint recovered from the scene as the shoe imprint from a Nike Court Vision. This morning, just after 7 o'clock a.m., Copeland was located at his campsite in Kahala and arrested on the strength of a warrant of arrest for murder in the second degree and use of a firearm in commission of a separate felony. His bail is set at $1 million aggregate. During the course of this investigation, we requested and received assistance from numerous divisions within the Honolulu Police Department, including the Scientific Investigative Section's Crime Scene Unit, Trace Unit, and DNA Unit, the Cyber Unit, and Crime Analysis Unit. I want to recognize assistance from the University of Hawaii Faculty and Security, Director and Professor of Forensic Sciences, Dr. David Carter of Chaminade University, JR Entomology, Department of Transportation, and Public Storage and Hawaii Self-Storage. From the onset of this investigation, the Honolulu Department of the Prosecuting Attorney's Domestic Violence Section has worked side by side with us. Their tireless efforts, along with the cooperation of everyone else involved, made today's arrest possible in bringing justice for Christina. I'll take a few questions.
About an arrest made in the Manoa murder of the woman who was found in a storm drain last month. Police say they have arrested 44-year-old Gibran Copeland. He was arrested this morning at his campsite in Kahala. HPD says the victim was identified as 50-year-old Christina Baca, and apparently they had an intimate relationship. We're going to have more on this story coming up on later editions of Hawaii News Now, as well as online.